a speciesist biological ideology. Thank you. 10 minutes. Disability activists also, and so that reveals an inherently positivist epistemic framing of the non-human body, and likewise, since the 1980s, in which the social model of disability founding work in the disability rights movement was released, disability activists like myself have opposed the medical model of disability, which presents our bodies as simply a medical problem and not as something which is also constructed by social institutions and social causes. So then I kind of have an image of the similarity of non-human and disabled other, and I imagine them as occupying parallel cells. If we imagine a huge cubic modernist, materialist positivist, institution, my disabled body and the non-human body, we are in parallel white cells, and the reflection of each face behind the glass of these little white cells reflects onto the street where these explanations proliferate and decide the fate of non-human and disabled bodies everywhere. And in the parallel holding cells of materialist positivism, one finds that animality and disability and realm are stably attached to their signifiers, that each label becomes a synonym for indeterminability and wildness. They're so elusive to empiricist science that taxonomies must constantly be rewritten. You see that in the constant updating of the DSM-5 and of the endless. So now I'm coming to the neo-Marxian part where I kind of resolve a lot of this tension. And so I critique intersectionality from a queer perspective as well for an alliance politics that essentially reduces power to a formalism of membership. The oppressed group is now race, class, and gender. If you're not race, class, and gender, what are you? Well, you're not oppressed. Get out of our equality circles. And of course, as animal rights activists, disability rights activists, we're trying to destabilize that and include other bodies in that mix. And so we need to empathize beyond the lines of humanness and non-humanness, and beyond the lines of ableism and disabledness. And a main argument I level against that kind of intersectionality is this idea that brought up by a disabled historian named Bainton, that a lot of these movements are about trying to make race, class, and gender bodies seem more able, and that's because of eugenic narratives about race, class, and gender bodies being inferior. And that goes back to the 1800s when people were arguing that women's brains were smaller, that black people were less capable. It all comes back to those bodies being originally seen as disabled, right? And so intersectionality was an attempt to make those bodies more able. So I have a problem with them trying to do that. To the extent that intersectionality tries to make the race, class, and gender bodies more human and more able, that's problematic. We need to embrace the feeling of craziness that the Common statement kind of scorns, and we need to change humanness. And now to the Marxian part. In Hart and Negri argue for an understanding of power relations that encompasses the entire globe, saying that dominant capitalist nation states exercise imperialist domination over the nations and regions of the globe, representing and perfecting imperialism. And the Common Theory Collective agrees we have to tear down the whole capitalist system. The meanings of colonization talked about by Hart and Negri are different once you apply them to wild bodies or non-human and disabled bodies. So as part of the neoliberal movement, all parts of life are moved into the sphere of the market, and that's kind of what allows the positivist epistemology to take over the explanatory role in deciding the non-human and the disabled. And so the violence of global neoliberal empires cannot be seen through any one lens. The entire system must be challenged from pedagogy of the press. We get the idea of anti-dialogics. Suggests the force of capitalism must divide and conquer to prevent the press groups from uniting. And we have to stand against those anti-dialogics. And so And so we are expanding intersectionality beyond race, class, and gender in order to fight those anti-dialogics. And so toward the end of empire, Hart and Negri defined the multitude as the jostled bodies whose mandatory movement and circulation are necessary for the ongoing vitality of neoliberal capitalism. So the multitude is this group that spans the globe and is located in all these different places, right? And we resist through a multitude of small acts of disobedience. So for me, that can be being a bad autistic and being in public and stimming, which is flapping my arms. That is a micro act of resistance. But for an animal, that could be being disobedient when the person who is handling it is trying to calm it down. The resistance occurs in many separate areas in micro level forms, and we need to embrace this capacity to resist in many micro level moments as a means of fighting that global system. And one of my last sentences is, intersectionality is thus reborn through a neoliberal theorizing that traces the existence of numerous forms of violence taking place in multiple sectors while being funded by a centralized set of movements. It is this capacity to theorize across a range of different experiences which must be once more evoked from critical disability and animal studies to reform and expand the intersectional model to numerous forms of life thought for. So I guess the answer I give you is that all of our resistance occurs in the micro level. You know, these micro level moments when the institutional grip comes down upon us and we say no, and we need to keep engaging in those micro level acts of disobedience against the overall system. Thank you.